What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of Still Slaps Classic Album Music Reviews. Thank you very much. If this is your first time at the channel, I appreciate you stopping by. Today is a very, very special episode, a very, very special review. We have on deck the classic 2006 R&B / pop EDM mixed electronic type album, the one and only Justin Timberlake. His anniversary for FutureSex LoveSounds just dropped yesterday, and I'm very ashamed that I missed the upload date yesterday. If you're new to the channel, you might have seen the videos of the Drake and Kanye, Andre 3000 beef coverage that we've been doing. It's been a lot of videos on that, but today we're gonna segue because this is a very important video to me. This album is one of my favorite dance albums of all time. This album is one of my favorite R&B records of all time. This album, I'm going to give you some context for if you don't know too much about this album. This is Justin Timberlake, one of my very nearest and dearest favorite songwriters, singers of all time, performers of all time. He's one of the couple of artists I've had the privilege of seeing live before the pandemic hit, back in 2017. And this album is Justin's second album. Justin took a hiatus after his first album dropped, Justified, which is another classic. Justin Timberlake has a classic catalog, no surprise. But this album right here, man, this was 2006. This is when Timbaland production was everywhere. Timbaland was going through that other phase in his career where he was getting into that other portion of his career production wise where he was blowing up again. He kind of had seemed to always be on. His catalog was stretching from Missy Elliott all the way through to Nelly Furtado around this time. These were big radio hit, and then not to mention only that, but hip hop. Around that time, you had a lot. The scene of hip hop was very different. You had a couple of one-hit wonders that aren't around anymore. But you've also had just the scene of hip hop in general. Timbaland was on it all. But this album right here was the trademark for Timbaland and another co-producer that many people forget to mention, Nathan Hills, aka Danger, D-A-N-J-A, Danger. These two collabed on this masterpiece of an album, and I've got this track list up here. This album is I want to say a 90% perfect. This album is the album that you want to go to when you genuinely want to hear a mix of just great, sonically put together, well thought out. I'm talking from the interludes to the way the transitions to the just the good time, the atmosphere that this production puts you inside of. This album right here is, no debate, one of Justin's greatest albums of all time. No debate. This track list is just from the intro. The FutureSex LoveSounds starts in with that heavy bounce all the way into Sexy Back, which we all know Sexy Back was everywhere. You could not get away from Sexy Back, no matter how hard you tried. I was even in grade school and they were still pushing that. It didn't matter. It didn't matter what the thematic. This album has some hitters that you could not escape. It didn't matter how old you were. This thing was just, you couldn't avoid the vibes, the dance, the chemistry that Justin and Timbaland. If you didn't believe it when Cry Me a River came out, if you didn't believe it when Justin was doing all that production with Timbaland, he only had a couple of records on the first album with Timbaland, but you knew that it was going to be a force to be reckoned with if these two got together again, and they did it again, and they did. And they did for a whole album almost. Timberland and Danger are credited as producers on pretty much this whole album, except for track number 8. And all in all, through and through, this album is just phenomenal. Like I said, you can't get any more of a mix of that hip hop, electronic, dance blend. The interludes. Justin was doing perfect interludes before interludes were really a thing. Like, I mean, like we think about interludes now. You think about Drake. You think about Weeknd. Weeknd has a couple of good interlude sections on his album, but Justin really captured the interludes in the perfect medley sections of an album. He really showed you production wise, everybody that was involved with this album, the production team really showed you how to make an album with interesting sections and transitions in your production, and just showed you how to just nail it every time. If you haven't heard this album, do yourself a favor, man. Do yourself a favor. Go back in time. Go stream it. Do whatever you can, because this album is a classic. Hands down, no debate. This is one of my biggest inspirations as a songwriter. I find myself, a lot of my melodies, I find myself hearing Justin's voice in my head, because he's had such an impact on me from, childhood, and going into my adulthood, still being able to appreciate an album like this. The pleasure of being able to listen to this as a grown man and still being able to pull from that type of inspiration. I want to give Justin once again his flowers. We will be doing more reviews and more reactions on this channel for Justin's catalog, because I think he deserves that at this point in his career. That is going to be a staple on this channel, because he deserves it, man. He deserves it, and this album is nothing short of amazing. I would say the only skip would probably be, number 8, that track there. Not that it's trash, but it is definitely a little bit more on the underwhelming side out of the whole track list. But yeah, other than that, this is a great album. This album, like I said, I can't really, lyrically, you just have to hear it. Yeah, it doesn't do me the justice to just sit here and, swoon over how dope the melodies are. You just have to play this thing, man, and just listen and really understand why Justin is a force to be reckoned with. With him, Timberland, and Danger, they just really put their whole force into this album, man, with how this thing sounds. Thank you, Justin, for a great album. Happy anniversary to FutureSex LoveSounds. You guys, this has been Shuby for Still Slaps. Comment below if you've heard this album, if you plan on listening to it, if you're a fan of Justin. If not, be nice, but just comment down below how you're feeling about it if you've listened to it. I'm Shuby again, here repping for Still Slaps. Justin Timberlake, FutureSex LoveSounds. Still Slaps.